Hello everyone, how are you all doing? So I hope you are doing very well. So August was Women in Translation Month and I am here with three books that left me a little gutted and a little more alive. These are the stories that linger. They are quietly devastating, deeply philosophical and unapologetically feminist. So today I have with me Heartland by Banu Mushtaq, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman, and The Vegetarian by Han Kang. uh, all of these stories were written by women. All of them were translated into English, and all of them were very unforgettable. Let's start with the book The Vegetarian by Han Kang. So this book was very strange actually and also very gut wrenching. So this book starts with a very single strange decision. Young Hai, a very quiet woman, our protagonist, suddenly stops eating meat after having some gory visceral dreams of slaughterhouses, and this one single pretty harmless decision sets off an emotional and social unraveling of everything around her. Before my wife turned vegetarian, I had always thought of her as completely unremarkable in every way. To be frank, the first time I met her, I wasn't even attracted to her. So, this is how the story begins, and we never get to hear Young Hai's perspective ever. With the story unfolds through the perspectives of her husband, her brother-in-law, and her sister. This one single narrative decision to silence the protagonist is such a powerful metaphor for how women are often talked about, interpreted, controlled, but rarely heard. She had never lived. Even as a child, as far back as she could remember, she had done nothing but endure. It's not about vegetarianism. This book is about women's body as a battleground. It's about a quiet revolt. It's about mental illness, violence, and the impossibility of innocence in a brutal world. Han Kang said in one of her interviews that the idea of the book came to her in one of her dreams, where she dreamed about a woman slowly turning into a tree, and that image never quite leaves you while you're reading the book. The Vegetarian is told in three parts, each part exploring how others see Young Hai. She becomes a canvas for their projections, their same desire, confusion, rage, while she quietly disappears. It's open ended, surreal, very painful but stunning. I have a more in-depth kind of review in my bookstagram. If you want to check that out, it's linked in the description box. If the vegetarian shook me, this book unraveled me. I Who Have Never Known Men. It was originally written in French by Belgian author Jacqueline Harpman, and this is one of the most quietly harrowing books I have ever read. The story begins in an underground bunker where 39 women and one young girl are trapped and locked in a cage. They don't know how they got there, they don't know why they're there. They're watched over by male guards who never speak. But this is not a dystopian novel, it's more like a philosophical riddle, an exploration of identity and absurdity of human existence. The human obsession with purpose and meaning are just a distraction from the absurdity of human existence. That's the takeaway that I got from this book. The protagonist is nameless, cultureless, and historyless. She doesn't grow up with any kind of social norms. So the way she thinks, she questions, and she observes the world around her, it's so raw, so detached, and yet so devastatingly human. There is no plot arc, no antagonist, and no big reveal, just a girl growing older in isolation, wondering if she is even human, wondering what it means to be alive when no one is watching. She constructs meaning from nothing, and in doing so, she frees herself through her mind. The novel doesn't tell you how to feel, it makes you sit in the discomfort of not knowing. The writing is introspective, sparse, and almost clinical, which makes it even more powerful. This is one of the most devastating books that I have ever read. The lack of world building because the background hum of one of the most philosophically rich meditations on survival and identity I have ever read. You may not feel satisfied when the book ends, but it will haunt you. And if you let it, it will sit with you, and it will start changing the questions you ask yourself. So the last book that I want to recommend is Heartland by Banu Mushtaq, translated by Deepa Basthi. Do you remember the song, the especially the chorus of the song Labor by Paris Paloma? Reading this book exactly felt like that. It felt like going through generations of conserved rage we women all feel in our bones. Heart Lamp is a selection of 12 short stories. All are translated from Kannada to English by Deepa Basthi. So Banu Mushtaq has been writing short stories for decades, and what Deepa Basthi did was she selected 12 of her short stories from 6 of her short story collections which were written over 30 plus years, and she carefully selected 12 short stories and turned them into a book format, and this is the book that got International Booker Prize this year. So the stories center around the domestic lives led by Muslim women in the southern parts of India. The range of protagonists are very striking. One of the protagonists is a newlywed, one of the protagonists is a small child, one of the protagonists is an older woman, and the protagonists all belong from different class, different financial backgrounds. So, the stories depicted different kind of aspect of womanhood. Banu Mushtaq has said in her interviews that she has faced major backlashes from Muslim extremists. They questioned why she wrote these stories in Kannada instead of Urdu, suggesting that if she wrote these stories in Urdu, the stories would remain within the community and it would not reach to a wider audience, and in that way, the stories would quietly disappear. She also faced phone threats suggesting that her body would not be buried in Kabristan. In her translator's note, Deepa Basthi captures the essence beautifully. This sisterhood to which those of us who identify as women belong is the cushion I base my translation on. The coping mechanisms we devise, the solutions we find, and the adjustments we make around men are survival strategies nurtured across generations. The particulars may be different, but at the core is a resistance to being controlled, tamed, or disallowed the exploration of her full potential. These stories are gut wrenching. They make you furious at the cruelty inflicted on women across generations under the Sharia law. Women forced into polygamous marriages, forced to bear children relentlessly, often getting pregnant again while still breastfeeding until their bodies break down, and then discarded for a younger bride. There's a line that stayed with me which was written to Allah as a letter. You gave me the strength to bear a lot of pain, but you should not have given him the cruelty to cause so much of it. The final story closes with one of the most powerful prayers I have ever read. If you were to build the world again, to create males and females again, do not be like an inexperienced potter. Come to the earth as a woman, Prabhu. Be a woman once, O Lord. The book is not at all an easy read, but it is a necessary one. It is a raw, searing portrait of womanhood and a rage that will stay with you long after you have finished reading it. All these three novels are so hard to talk about without slipping into silence, not because they're complicated, but because there's so much. And that's what great translated fictions does. They give you access to other women's pain, defiance, and thoughts. So that's it for today. If you have read any of these books, let me know how you liked them, what are your thoughts on them, and if you have any other women in translation recommendations, drop them in the comments. I'd love to read them. So let's read deeply, let's read widely, and let's not forget how powerful stories can be, especially when they're told by women. Subscribe for more feminist literature and reading vlogs. Also, you can check out my Bookstagram for more in-depth reviews. It is linked in the description box. Also, you know the drill. Water your plants, stay hydrated, and be kind to animals. Goodbye. See you soon.